On this episode of Surviving Outside Sales podcast, I'm going to give you a little bit more background on me, the host, and also a little bit more background on surviving outside sales, touch on the sales advocacy method, which is one of the processes we have at Surviving Outside Sales, and also start talking about the getting in phase. Stick around. It's going to be a great episode. As always, if you want to subscribe, hit the like button, or you can comment on this episode. We'd really appreciate some feedback. On with the show. Intro. The Surviving Outside Sales podcast, hosted by Mike O'Kelly, presented by Rithm AI. The goal is to get in, dominate, then get out. Surviving Outside Sales. Now on with the show. Welcome back to the Surviving Outside Sales podcast. I'm your host, Mike O'Kelly. And on this episode, we're going to discuss a little bit more about my background, who I am, how I got here to this point, and just give you a little bit more understanding of my thoughts, my philosophies that might help you. They may not, but I just want you to know a little bit more. And you're going to get some context and some stories along the way through the podcast with various guests. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a foundation. But we're also going to touch on the sales advocacy method that Justin and I spoke about. It is a foundation of my sales process, and we're going to share that. And hopefully it helps a lot of individuals out there. And lastly, we're going to touch on the getting in part. So we're going to talk about the first phase of surviving outside sales. So my name is Mike O'Kelly, 42 years old. I'm married with two young children. I have two young daughters, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been here almost a little over 20 years. And before that, I lived in Virginia, in Richmond, Virginia, born and raised. On the playground is not where I spent most of my days, but I played baseball. So ball field is where I spent most of my days. I played baseball till I was 24 years old. I played college in William & Mary in Virginia, and then played 2 years in the minors. I was in the Braves organization for one glorious summer, and then I was cut. They fired me. And then I played independent ball for parts of the next 2 years, but I got cut in spring training in 1 year. So I don't consider that a full year. So I had 2 years in the minors and I batted 200. So for all you fans out there of baseball, you know, that's the Mendoza line. So I joke that should be called the O'Kelly line, but I ended 2 seasons with really bad slumps. And so over the course, that's kind of what I was. I was a 200 hitter. But one of the things that I realize is early on in my life was do not make excuses. And so I don't make any excuses. My performance was my performance. I had the talent to play in Major League Baseball, but I didn't have the ability. And so there's a difference between talent and ability. A lot of people have sales talent, but do they have the ability? So you're thinking, wait, Mike, that's ridiculous. What are you talking about? Okay. I had the talent. If I went out to batting practice, I could launch balls 450 feet. I could, to all fields. I had a tremendous power. I was a right-handed batter. I had tremendous power to right field. A lot of my home runs, my doubles, I had a lot of hits, especially since a lot of pitchers pitched me away. I had power to all fields. I could crush the ball. Well, there's more to baseball than just crushing the ball. A lot of guys can crush a ball in batting practice. So I had the talent to do that. You know, I had the talent to hit the ball very far. I was very strong, 6'4". At the time, I was 225. Now I've got a little bit of the dad bod and dad weight, and so I'm not 225. I'm in my 40s, but I'm built actually more now, almost like a football player, you know, a light offensive lineman. So it was very difficult to keep my professional baseball weight. I know a lot of people that are listening to this right now are probably nodding their heads. Yeah, they get it. We're not in our 20s anymore. But I had the talent. I had a strong arm. I played multiple positions. I had the talent, but I lacked the ability. So the talent's on the sideline. The ability is once you actually get out in the field. And so what I struggled with, honestly, was my body. I could not have the consistent level of performance on a daily basis. Some days I'd go out to the field and I'd be, 90%, which is probably, no one's ever 100%. Playing sports, no one's ever 100%. You've got little injuries, nagging things, etc. But I'd go through stretches where I'd be on fire. In fact, there was a week where I was runner-up player of the week. I hit like 420, 6 doubles, home run. And then I followed that up with an 0 for 23 slump. In a nutshell, that was my career in baseball, in professional baseball, not college, but in professional baseball. Was I'd go through these ups and downs, and you can't have that. You can't have that and be successful. One of our guests that is going to be coming on was one of my college teammates, played in the big leagues. Brendan was very consistent and consistently got hits, and that's what it takes. And so I did not have the ability to replicate the success on a daily basis. And so that consistency factor is how I look back at my baseball career. That's what was lacking, was consistency, and also productivity. I think consistency and productivity go hand in hand. You can be productive for a short period of time, but is it sustainable? And so I could not keep that sustainability. And so therefore I was released. So I worked out to get my body in the best shape of my life after my first season. And I did. And again, I was off to a great start in independent ball, and then I got hurt. Now I broke my hand. And after that, I just didn't have the ability. And so the problem is when you get to the level of independent ball, you don't get a lot of chances. You don't get a lot of opportunity. It's kind of your last opportunity. And I did go to training camp with another squad the next spring, but I was released. And at that point, I think the fire for baseball was gone. I think that I didn't want to do it anymore. I had gotten cut by the Braves, trained really hard. I got cut by the first independent team because of roster issues. And then I got on with another independent team. And then I got hurt, didn't perform well, and I got released. And then I went to training camp. But that winter, I started thinking, I got released 3 times in 12 months. I know I honestly looked at it. Okay, I'm 23 years old. I've just been released 3 times in the last 12 months. What I know now from how Major League Baseball and how scouts view it is they try to anticipate the trajectory of a player. Where is this player going to be in 4 years? So I thought about it and I said, okay, I'm going to be 28 years old. In 4 years, I'll be 28. So where am I going to be? Okay, well, I just hit 202 seasons with about 250 at bats. Okay, so that's about a half of a major league season. Somebody's hitting 200, half of a major league season, they're going to get released. So I was doing this in low A ball, low minor leagues. So that experience where I wasn't just looking at, okay, here are my stats, here are my numbers. I started making projections. And I started thinking to myself, okay, what are my projections going to be? And this is definitely something that is helpful. If you're thinking right now about being in sales or being in business, it's not about what have you done today. It's also what are you going to do in the future? Where are you going to go from here? I have seen people who've won President's Club and had all these awards, and then the company fires them a year or 2 later, or they have to leave because their business gets stagnant or they kind of sat back on their laurels. So early on, I think that really helped me. The fact that I failed and I failed and I failed. And so, I remember talking with my parents, and my dad was like, do you think you could have given another go? Do you think you could have been more persistent? And I said, well, I was persistent. I was released 3 times within a 12-month period, and I still tried out for another team. But like they say in baseball, 3 strikes and you're out. And so what I realized is that I didn't want to be this guy who was 28, 29 years old, trying to chase something that wasn't going to happen. So I had to be real, and I had to look myself in the mirror. And so if you've had some rough times in sales, give it 3 strikes. And then if it doesn't work, you can move on to something else. Just know everybody has run into adversity. I've yet to see many posts on LinkedIn about failure. It's all about successes. That's all anybody posts is their success stories. It's not about their failures, which is a shame. I think more people should discuss the failures. So after baseball was over, so I've been released. I'm 24 years old, and I had no idea what I was going to do. One of my college roommates called me up and said, hey, do you want to come bartend at my restaurant? And I said, absolutely. I had been bartending in Charlotte in the off seasons, playing minor league ball. And I remember getting the call. I was in O'Fallon, Missouri, This league is now changed into a college league, but it used to be independent minor league baseball, the Frontier League in O'Fallon, Missouri, the River City Rascals. And so I was in training camp with the River City Rascals and I was released. And so it was about a 12-hour drive back to Charlotte. And so my buddy called me, and he is in Holden Beach, North Carolina, and said, "Do you want to come run the bar?" And I said, "Sure." I think I stopped in Charlotte just to kind of pick some things up, but then I went to the beach, and I was there from about May till September and working the bar, driving sales. In fact, I promised his dad, who was part owner in the restaurant, that I was going to drive liquor sales like he's never seen before. And he said, "How are you going to do that?" And I said, "I want people to have a good time." And I remember it was like 3 deep at the bar almost every night. I was doing shots. Jaeger bombs had just become popular at that point. So I was pushing Jaeger bombs on everybody. A lot of people that go to Holden Beach, it's a very family beach in North Carolina, but a lot of people that go are, families that have gone there for years. And so it wasn't really like a big party beach. It's not like Myrtle Beach at all. It's not a party beach. So, but when you were in Provision Company in Holden Beach, North Carolina, I didn't care if you were there to party or not. You were going to have a good time. And so all I did was I just offered it to people. I said, "Would you guys like to try a Jaeger bomb? Would you guys like a cocktail? Would you guys like a shot? Do you want to loosen up?" People said yes. That's what I did. I just offered. And so I started realizing that I really enjoyed people having a good time and finding what people needed, what they wanted. So very quickly, I was starting to realize that I really enjoyed being in the restaurant industry. But what I was feeling beneath the surface was sales. I really enjoyed sales. I really enjoyed helping somebody find a solution. So in this case, when people walked in and they're sitting at the bar, and if anybody's been to Provision Company at Holden Beach, it's not a quote unquote bar. It is a repurposed house on the Intercoastal Waterway that is turned into a restaurant. And so you order, and then you walk outside and the food is delivered to you. The whole house is built on, I guess, pylons. It's the second floor, but there's only one floor. It's a one floor converted house you go up the steps, and it's almost like it's on a platform. It's elevated because it's at the beach. You don't want to flood and all of a sudden flood the entire restaurant if there's a hurricane, et cetera. So the bar is not very big. In fact, it's probably got 10 or 12 seats, and it's the shape of a U. But people would go in there to wait for a table because it was so busy. So they go in there and wait for a table, and I would just offer to them. And so after doing that for about 6 months, I realized that's not really what my trajectory was going to be. So I moved back to Charlotte, continued to bartend, and then I realized, okay, I want to get into sales. I got a great opportunity the following year with a great organization that did great training. I think the most important thing is the fact that the big takeaway from my background is I've been in sales for 20 years. What I've done is I turned around territories, and I credit 100% to all of the turning around, and not just turning around, but hitting records and numbers that those territories have not done before or have not seen in a very long time. And it's because of the process. That's really what I want you to focus on, is the process. I will walk through my process from start to finish.
Surviving Outside Sales podcast is brought to you by Rithm AI. If you are in outside sales, check out rithmai.com. That's RITHMAI.com. The sales enablement tool that will help outside sales teams build their best sales days every day. Rithm. Prospecting, targeting, and routing simplified. Everything an outside sales team needs, nothing it doesn't. Try for $1 for the first month today. That's rithmai.com. Now back to the show.
One of the things that I pride myself on is doing things that no one else has ever done before. The whole goal was to challenge myself and to build a skill set that I either did not currently have or I wanted to improve. And I wanted to push myself. And I feel like I have done that. And I have done that along the way. And this is another step in the process. If you want to contact me, you can. If you have any questions or you want to connect on LinkedIn, Instagram, let me know what you think of the show. You can always subscribe. You can always like the episodes. So without further ado, we'll get onto the sales advocacy method. We're going to be discussing this with my co-founder, Justin Lohman, in a future episode that's going to drop very shortly. So I'll just touch on this right now. The goal of sales is to create advocates. And so there are 5 steps to the sales process, 5 steps to a customer journey. The sales philosophy that we have is customer centric. It's customer focused. We view everything from where is your customer or your prospect today. So the first is unaware. The second level is aware. The third is trial. The fourth is user. And the fifth is advocate. So the goal is to take as many people from whatever phase they currently in today and get them to the advocate status. That is the goal. The goal is to have people out there advocating for you, your product, or your service. And what that does is that creates a clone of yourself. I want 20 people out there talking about my products, my services, or myself, at least on a daily basis, promoting to other people. So it doesn't sound like I'm trying to sell people. And so you go through the 5 steps and you try to figure out where the person is within the 5 steps. And that's how you approach them. And you're going to approach them differently. That is the one thing that really frustrates Justin and me, is the fact that a lot of the things that you hear in sales is very cookie cutter, and it's great. However, it doesn't take into account where the person is. Are you familiar with our product? If the answer is yes, you're going to act a little different than if they're not, correct? So the 5 steps again are unaware, aware, trial, user, advocate. Unaware is the person has no idea what your product is, who you are, anything. That you literally are talking to them for the first time. They've never heard of your product, no anything. Aware is just like it sounds. Yep, they know about your product. They've heard of it. Maybe a colleague mentioned it one time, or another sales rep has talked to them before about that product. Okay. They're aware, but they haven't done anything. They haven't taken action. In that case, you want to figure out why. Why have they not taken action? You've heard about our product, or you've heard about the process, you've heard about the service, but you haven't taken action. That's a different path to sales than the unaware. All right. The third is trial. Somebody who was unaware of your product, heard about your product, and took the next step. They tried the product. Maybe it was a trial. Maybe they did it once and they haven't gone back since. Okay. Again, this could be somebody who's still in trial, new to trial, or they tried it a long time ago and it just didn't work for them. Something happened where they didn't become step number 4, a user. A user is where a lot of the sales advice that I have seen and Justin has seen in the industry, that's where a lot of the advice ends up and it falls short. A user is somebody who consumes a product, a service, but doesn't take that next step, which is a testimonial, is advocate, is tell their friends about, or no matter what happens, they use your product no matter what. I'll give you an example. A user of a product is when you reach out to them and they use the product because you reached out to them. An advocate is one that uses the product, whether or not you follow up with them or not. So if I took a 2-week vacation and my sales plummeted, I don't have any advocates. I've got users. I either have people in trial or user. I don't have any advocates. If for some reason I took 6 weeks off and my sales was constant or it went up, I have a lot of advocates. And so Justin has done phenomenally well in his career, his entire career. He learned this at a young age in his early 20s. And it goes back to the training of his first company. They talked about it openly. He sold cough and cold medicine. You need to have doctors that even if you are there or not, they're going to use your product. So you have to elevate the conversation. You have to elevate above your competition. So it's no question who they're going to use. So he's been doing this for, at least 16 to 18 years of the advocacy method. So he's going to share examples. He's going to share his thought process as well. He taught this to me about 7 or 8 years ago, and it completely changed my life in sales. It simplified my process completely. And so we're going to talk about how to create advocates. We're going to talk about bringing people along, different questions you ask in different phases, and we're going to break down every single phase of the sales advocacy method, so that you can replicate it. You can customize it to whatever industry you're in, and you can replicate it, because we believe about productivity and consistency. There's also 5 pillars of our sales philosophy. The 5 principles of our process is COPET, cop it, or cope it, however you want to say it. COPET: consistency, optimization, productivity, efficiency, and time management. So if you can master the COPET and you understand the framework of going from unaware to advocate, that is the sales advocacy method. So everything is built within that framework. That is a process and a system that will be successful no matter what you are selling. So we're going to dive more into that with Justin on the next episode that I bring him in. Like I said, it's going to be in a few weeks, but I've got a lot of great guests and a lot of great episodes that we're going to drop before then. But we'll talk about the sales advocacy method. We'll talk more about the surviving outside sales as well. So a lot of great episodes coming up, and I hope you all enjoy it. And I'm going to end with this, the getting in part, because I told you I'd talk about that. So the getting in part, as Justin and I said in a previous episode, if you're looking to get into sales, there's 3 things that you should do. Okay. Number 1 is figure out what your skills are, and then figure out what you want to do with those skills. So if you like solving problems or other people's problems, and you feel comfortable talking to people, you're probably going to do very well in sales. Not to say that if you don't feel comfortable talking to people, you're not going to be successful in sales. That's not true. You can be an introvert and still be successful in sales. You're just going to have to do it a little different. But the first step is figure out what you want to do. Okay. Number 2 is come up with a 5 to 10 year plan. And this plan is not I want to make this amount of money. Figure out your 5 to 10 year plan regarding, this is the industry I want to get into. This is what I want to be doing. And I'm going to go after it for 5 to 10 years. Not, I'm going to try it for 6 months, and if it fails, I'm going to give up. Now, you might get into an industry and just realize you don't like it. That's a different story. But if you want to stay with sales and you want to stay, you got to have a 5 to 10 year plan. And you're going to go after it, and nothing is going to stand in your way. You're going to be persistent, like all get up. And the third is find resources. That could be a mentor. That could be a class. That could be a seminar. In fact, I believe you should spend at least I say 1 to 3%, because it depends on how much money you make. But I think you should spend upwards of 3% of your annual earnings on re-education, and find out what your goal is. So right now, if you don't make any money, what's your goal? Do you want to make $100,000 this year? Great. I recommend you spend $3,000 of your own money, not from company, on your own money, on seminars, on classes. There are seminars everywhere. I just purchased a class from a guest we're going to have in the future, Leslie. We shot her episode a few weeks back. Fantastic sales star and very interesting. She's on TikTok and she is on LinkedIn. Very funny videos. She's carved out a career for herself. She has a sales course. So I purchased it. I purchase a lot of people's sales courses because I always am trying to learn. I'm trying to better myself. And so I invest 3%. at least 3% a year on new courses, new classes, new people's products. And some of the times it works and some of the times it doesn't, but it doesn't stop me. Okay. That's the thing. That's the consistency part. Okay. Take action and make sure it's consistent. Optimize that action, make sure it's productive and efficient, and make sure that it's time efficient as well. Don't waste your time. So the COPET, the COPET, it works in every way possible. And in this case, it also works on reinvesting. So I reinvest. So if you're starting right now and you don't really know what you do, there are tons of resources out there. I want to be a resource. If you want to reach out to me and say, what should I do? Great. I'll advise you. I'll give you advice. You don't have to take it, but the whole point of this is to try to help people. You have to reinvest. That is crucial for success. And that is crucial for you expanding your career, is you got to invest in yourself. And I'll tell you this, a lot of times companies will not do that. It's great if they do, but if you need a piece of technology, go get it, go buy it. Okay. Keep the receipt and you can write it off at the end of the year. A lot of times these courses are tax deductible because you're investing in yourself. So that's another touch point on the getting in. Figure out what you want to do, what industry you want to be in, go after it, find a mentor. If somebody is teaching a course on how to be a medical sales rep, buy the course. The course can't be more than $250, $300. Buy it. The person is literally telling you step by step how to do it. And there's a lot of free resources as well. So if you don't have the $300, scour YouTube, scour the internet, follow the people on Instagram. Coming up on future episodes, we're going to continue to have guests that are going to be some of the best in the field. They're going to challenge the way you think. They're going to challenge what your beliefs are with sales. There might be some things they say that might call you out and might ruffle some feathers, and that's okay. There are people better than me in the sales industry. That doesn't stop me, but it also makes me realize that I have to keep getting better and I have to keep performing. Even after I've been in the industry for almost 20 years, there are a lot of people out there that are better than me. And so I hate that. I hate that there are so many people better than me at sales and business. Okay. Well, I'm not done yet. My book has not been completed. I'm halfway through. So I challenge myself every day to get better, do things that are uncomfortable. I'm comfortable in the uncomfortable. That's another tidbit for the getting in. It also helps with the dominate and the getting out. Pushing through when things get really difficult. The consistency, the optimizing, the productivity, the efficiency, and the time management. So that's all that I'm going to share in this episode. I really do appreciate it. You can hit the subscribe button. You can also like this episode. You can hit a comment as well and give me any kind of feedback. I'm open to all types of criticism, although I will say, hopefully it's constructive at this point and not just, hey, I don't like your face. I don't like your voice. There's nothing I can do about that. So thank you so much. And we'll catch you next time on the Surviving Outside Sales podcast. Thanks.